This last September, I chose to ditch Apple's large Max model phones and for the first time since I can remember, go with the smaller 6.1-inch model. And now that it has been 4 months, was it worth trading in that large, gorgeous 6.7-inch screen and the much larger battery for a more reasonable phone, or did I make a mistake and wish that I got the Max model like I did last year and the previous years before that? In this video, I will go over what my concerns were finally making the jump and ditching the Max, if those came to light, and if the iPhone 13 Pro is worth buying or if you should just get the Max. Let's start out with why I wanted a smaller phone in the first place but never bought one, and how the phone world has changed so much in just over a decade. When Apple announced their iPhone, the 3.5-inch display was considered a large screen, bigger than my first smartphone, the Google HTC G1. But shortly after that, Android manufacturers started making screens larger and larger. My second phone was the original Samsung Galaxy S, and what sold me on it was the huge, gorgeous display at a massive 4 inches, which sounds hilarious now with screen sizes that we have. But when I saw the Galaxy Note, I knew I had to have it. Even though I was making barely any money at the time, I saved up and I bought one because I loved the idea of the S Pen and that huge 5.3-inch display, which actually sounds small now. That phone proved that people wanted phablets, and it really propelled the whole Android market since Apple wanted to stick to small screens for many years. 3 years later, they finally caved and had to start making large screen phones, and that is what finally got me to buy into Apple's ecosystem with the iPhone 6 Plus, and I became a big Apple fan. Now, like most tech enthusiasts, I stayed with their large screen phones because they offered much better battery life than the smaller phones, along with exclusive features, the biggest one probably being portrait mode, which was a game changer, and it started the demise of dedicated cameras for most people. As the years went on, the big iPhones kept growing and growing, both in size and weight, with the iPhone 13 Pro Max being 240 grams now, close to 50% heavier than the original big iPhone, and weighing closer now to the Z Fold 3, which is a much bigger phone. So as these phones got bigger and heavier, at some point it just got unwieldy, but I still stuck with the larger ones because of the regular iPhones. They're just too small, the 4.7-inch ones, and even the 5.8s, up until the iPhone XR came out with a 6.1-inch screen, which I absolutely loved that size of. It was like the old Goldilocks story. The XR fit perfectly in my hand where the XS was too small and the XS Max was a bit too large. But of course, Apple still gave enough reasons for me to keep buying the big phones, even up until the iPhone 12 series, because if you cared about having the best camera quality, and I do, you had to buy the 12 Pro Max for its superior cameras. But this year, for the first time ever, Apple made a change that we weren't expecting. With the iPhone 13 lineup, they finally stopped forcing people to buy the biggest phone if they wanted the best or the full set of features. The smaller iPhone 13 Pro has the same exact camera system with the same updated ultra-wide, the 3x telephoto, and the larger main sensor. Now, they did put in one limitation. If you buy the base 128GB model, you can't shoot ProRes video in 4K, but only 1080p, in an attempt, I think, to get more people to spend extra money to get the larger capacity. And of course, that's exactly what I ended up doing. For the first time ever, I purchased myself the smaller iPhone, and because the 13 Pro costs $100 less, even with that extra storage, I still ended up paying the same I would have for a base level 13 Pro Max. So how has it been? Did my concerns come true? And has the battery life been good enough compared to having that massive battery of the Max? Well, first off, I want to comment on that ProRes and if spending the extra for that larger storage was worth it. Now, I've always bought the base storage amounts with iPhones for 2 reasons. The first being resale. Now, I'm obviously somebody who upgrades phones every year. I kind of need to do that for my job, and I sell my older ones. And if you're somebody that's looked online at used prices with the iPhones that have more storage, they don't really sell for much more than just the base amount. And with that, Apple charges way too much money to upgrade storage, in my opinion. And second, I've been using iCloud for many years now, so I don't really need the extra space. With that said, within the last year or so, I started noticing that my phone kept having a buffer because my photo library has grown so much that everything has started to stream, and the local photos are really low quality. And a lot of the videos, they wouldn't even play if I don't have an internet connection because they're all stored completely up in the cloud, and that started to get really annoying at times. The whole 1080p ProRes really pushed me over that edge and finally got me to spend extra on more storage, because how could I, a video shooter, be forced to shoot 1080p video in 2021, right? Well, 4 months later, I am not shooting ProRes at all. For me, it was not enough of a quality difference to be, willing to spend the extra time and the extra capacity to actually use it. So if you're somebody that is wondering about that and thinking about spending extra money on storage for that, I wouldn't do it. I will say though that I don't remember the last time that I had to buffer a video or wait for a photo to display in better quality, which has been really nice. So I'm glad that I finally got the 256 gigs of storage, and thanks to downsizing to a smaller phone, it didn't cost me any extra compared to previous years. Now, by far, my biggest concern going with a smaller iPhone this year was the battery life. The larger iPhones have always had much bigger batteries inside, and even though the 13 lineup has grown as far as battery life overall, the Max model grew the most, now over 40% larger battery compared to the 13 Pro, so I wondered if I would struggle with battery life going with the smaller phone. So how has the battery life been over the last 4 months? Well, to be honest, at first it was a bit of a pain. The 13 Pro Max was getting absolutely insane battery life, but I wasn't getting through a full day with my 13 Pro like I had with my previous 12 Pro Max. And at one point, I was so close to upgrading to a Max and selling my regular Pro just because I was getting annoyed with constantly having the battery die before the day was over unless I plugged in sometime during the day. Thankfully, battery life actually got quite a bit better after about a month or so, and I can now get through a full day and still have about 10 to 15% battery left when I go to plug it in and charge it at night with my MagSafe charger, even though I'm still using it the same. So I'm really glad that I did not ditch it and go back to the Max. Now that is pretty much exactly what I got with my 12 Pro Max, and better than what I had with my 11 Pro Max, so it definitely isn't a downside now. My only guess is that this is because of software optimization, and when the 13s came out with iOS 15, software just wasn't well optimized enough for the A15 processor and the new features that it packed, but now that it has been, the battery life is fantastic. Now sure, the 13 Pro Max can get some people through 2 full days of use, but for most people that charge their phone every night anyways, the deciding point is really if that phone can get through a full day without needing to be plugged in or charged, and for the first time ever, a regular size iPhone can do that even for power users like myself, which is really impressive because I have a ton of apps on here that are always running in the background and looking at location and things like that. So if you're somebody that's been wanting to go to a smaller phone and you are hesitant, don't be, and give it a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, how has it been sacrificing the huge, gorgeous screen, and how has the comfort been going with the smaller phone? Well, I have to say that I love this smaller phone. The 6.1-inch size is perfect in the hand, as I can actually use it one-handed without any issues, and that has been really nice. Now when I go back and pick up a Pro Max, it feels unwieldy, and I remember having to deal with that all the time in order to get the top-of-the-line features and the all-day battery. Now, as far as media, do I miss having that huge screen? Well, for videos, no, not at all. You actually just get used to the slightly smaller screen, and then you don't even notice it. And for websites and doing things like that, everything is just a little bit smaller, so you still get the same amount of usable screen real estate. I will say that for gaming, that is the one area where I do sometimes wish that I had the larger display, especially with shooting games like Call of Duty, where you have a lot going on, a lot of things on the screen, but of course it's still perfectly playable. Now, overall, I will say that after finally deciding to ditch the massive Max size phone or the Plus models in the past and finally going with the smaller one, I am really happy that I did, and I have no regrets. And I really hope that the iPhone 14 lineup, that one also doesn't have any limitations with the smaller one, and they don't add any extra features to the Max model. And if that's the case, then I will still go with the 6.1 inch size. So overall, after finally ditching the massive Max phone and going with the smaller model, I am really happy that I did that, and I have no regrets. Of course, the phone is a huge improvement compared to the iPhone 12 lineup, especially with the battery life and the cameras, but also with 5G speeds, and most of all, the graphics performance without having any screen dimming or very little compared to the iPhone 12. I really hope that Apple keeps the iPhone 14s the same and they don't give the Max model exclusive features over the regular Pro, so I can stick with the smaller size. So if you're somebody that wants to buy an iPhone 13 and you're not sure if you just go for the Pro model or spend extra for the Max, I would say if you've been wanting to go for a smaller phone that's more comfortable, now is the time, and I think you'll be very happy. Thank you guys for watching. Check out our long-term review on the iPhone 13 Pro Max over there, or one of our comparisons. Click above to subscribe if you guys want to help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.